All right. So this is week 2 of the virtual meetup. Like I said, last week we did single family analysis. This week we're going to do all things residential multifamily. We're not going to get into commercial stuff quite yet. That's a whole different beast. So as you guys can see, hopefully you can see my screen and everything here. So we're going to go over 2382 West North Bend Road. Which is an off-market property we got through a wholesaler that my client recently closed on. And we are working with the property manager. So this property consists of 2 one-bedroom units, 1 bed, 1 bath units, and 2 two-bedroom, 1 bath units. The 1 bedrooms are both vacant. The 2 bedrooms are both occupied. It's been the same owner for like 20 something years on there, which is pretty typical. Actually, one of the tenants has lived there for 21 years. He's elderly, where, property manager is doing their best to help this guy out in his situation and everything. But that's kind of the background on this property. So this is off of a busier road, just full of fourplexes. But it's got its own parking spots, driveway. It's kind of a shared driveway, but parking spots and everything in the back. Obviously common areas, laundry and everything. So I've got videos and stuff like that on here, but we can kind of just go through pictures of things as well. And then we've got inspection reports and everything to look at. But starting off, whenever we first look at a property, so if this property were to come in your email and you're going to go, oh, okay, cool, Mitch sent me a fourplex today. What the heck am I supposed to do with this? So the first thing I'll generally do is you will look at, obviously, the asking price. So for this one, they were asking $250,000 for this 4 unit. Okay. My first step is always to develop the ARV. Right. So if you're not familiar with that, that's after repair value. So what the heck is this thing going to be worth when it's all fixed up? And when it comes to multifamily, it has to be 1, all fixed up, and 2, it has to be rented. Right. So most multifamily is going to be valued. Residential multifamily will be valued on comps, but also the income approach. So the more income that property is generating, the higher value the appraiser is going to give you on there, right? So if your gross income on something like this is $3,000 a month versus $4,000 a month, you're typically not going to receive as high of an appraisal, or they might knock you down in a couple little areas or something like that, right? Which in single family, it's pretty much all based on finishes. And single family, sometimes we'll get it refinanced before we rent it, depending on the loan. Or we'll get it rented and then refinanced. But for multifamily, you have to have it rented. So timeline for multifamily is absolutely quite a bit longer than single family. So when I'm looking at this deal, let's go through and kind of just develop an ARV. I will not use the MLS for this. I will only use Zillow and see what we can find. It might be a little difficult, but we can do this. So we'll go to our trusty friend Zillow here. It was never listed on Zillow. So it's not necessarily going to show up on anything. Let's just do this. Okay, so even though this was never listed, it was never sold according to Zillow. They just don't know yet, just because it's been closer recently that nothing's actually been updated on here. You can still look it up on here and see, what area and everything like that it's in. So in this case, it's right in between Mount Airy and College Hill. The area on this one, so this is West North Bend Road, which is kind of a main thoroughfare that goes through Cincinnati. And this entire section, I mean, pretty much from here all the way down is all residential multifamily. It's all pretty much the same 4 unit right next to each other. So what I like to do is just come in here, I'll right click and then duplicate this, and it will put me on the map, basically right exactly where I was looking at. You can remove this boundary and everything if you want to. And then come in here. We're going to only look at sold properties. And we're going to only want to look at multifamily. All good there. So what I generally like to do on Zillow is start basically zooming in to exactly where this property was. And in this case, you know, there should be at least something along this road, we would hope, with everything being all form family and everything through there. But in this case, there's not. And typically with multifamily, it's generally more acceptable to go further back with your comps. Appraisers are going to prefer that it sold within at least the last 6 months, but a lot of the times there's just not a whole lot of comps out there. And this is everything that's sold in the last 6 months on here as far as multifamily goes. So this is just right up the road here. So pretty much, you know, same busy road, you know, a similar busy road and everything up here. I can tell that this is already a 4-unit. Cincinnati 4 units pretty much all look exactly the same, and they all have the same layout. Some of them have underneath garages, some of them don't. But looking at this property on Shady Mist, I'm pretty sure I sold this property. But regardless, so this is okay. So I actually sold this one. So I didn't even realize, but this is very similar. We actually used this as a comp for this property when we were first looking at it. So this one sold for $310,000. It sold back in October, which is a reasonable timeline on here. And this one has 4 2-bedroom units. Okay, so our subject property has half ones and half twos. So this is typically going to be a more desirable property because it's got all 2 bedrooms, right? So you can generate more rent on here. So they were currently grossing $32.75 on here. So what I'll generally do is take $32.75, divide that by the number of units. So they were getting about $818 on average per unit, which for a 2-bedroom is pretty low on something like this. Now, going through the pictures and everything on here, you can kind of see like these are not bad units at all. They did not have pictures of all of the units. They only have 10 pictures in here when you can have 50. That will generally tell you that the other units are not very nice. And I can say that the other units in this building are not very nice. Now, what this client decided to do on this actual property was just raise the rents, right? He didn't do anything. He's like, I'm not going to refinance out of it. I'm just going to raise the rents on here. But $310,000 at pretty low rents. So we know that our ARV on our property should be at least $310,000, I would think, right? This is not a great performing property. Even though ours is slightly smaller than this one, we should be able to do better than $800 a month in rent per unit. So we've got that one. That one's the best comp by far. This one is a duplex, which typically you want to try to comp fourplex to fourplex if you can. Appraisers will only comp the same units to the same units, right? If you have a fourplex, they're comping fourplexes. They are not comping triplexes or duplexes or anything like that. They would rather go further back than comp something with not the same units when it comes to residential. Now, commercial, it's totally different. Commercial is all based on income. But in residential, they're still going to pull comps for things, which I prefer just to be income approach as far as a price strategy goes, but regardless. So doing comps for multifamily, like I said, is not the easiest thing in the world. So if we have 2 1-bedrooms and 2 2-bedrooms, what do you think our gross rent should be on our subject property? What would you guys expect?
You're saying like for all 4 units total?
Yeah. What do you think our gross rent would be?
Well, I heard you say that 800 felt low.
Yeah.
So I would say over that. Well, that's 800 is low for a 2-bedroom.
For
So
a 2-bedroom.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like 4,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I would estimate probably 3,900. So in an area like this, I'm kind of just going to use the Section 8 rents to determine that stuff. And because we don't really have a lot of comps, we got to figure out what this property is going to rent for when everything is said and done. So for a 1-bedroom unit, I'm going to expect about $850 a month when everything is totally done and renovated, right? I think that's conservative. Could you get a little bit more than that? You might be able to if you go really all out on the property analysis and everything. And then for the 2-bedroom units, I would expect probably about $1,100 a month. $1,000, $1,100, something like that a month, and gross rents after renovations and everything. So our property should be gross rents, let's just call it 4,000 for easy numbers, 3,900 to 4,000 or so gross rents on there. One thing that I hear all the time is, especially with my bigger pockets people, is okay, well, if my gross rents are 3,900, then my property is worth 390,000 when it's fixed up. And I said, well, how did you come up with that? And they go, well, it's the 1% rule. That's what everybody kind of uses to gauge value and everything. And I'm like, appraisers don't use the 1% rule. That's a bigger pockets thing to tell you, if something might be a good deal, right? We can't use the 1% rule in order to, fully evaluate properties. That is not going to work so good. So we know that this property over here sold on Shady Mist, sold for $310,000 and was $3,750 gross rents and everything on there. So if they were to raise up their rents, their gross rent should be more than what ours was. But it's tough, and it's kind of a playing game. You can go into, and I want to save kind of going deep into the income approach for a different meetup, because it's going to take a lot of numbers and everything into going in deep into all of that kind of stuff. For me, looking at $3,900 in gross rents, typically looking at comps and everything, I would probably run your ARV at somewhere at like 350 if everything was fixed up and done. And it's just so hard without having decent comps on here. Hey, Alan, I know that you're on here. Are you able to talk? Because this is your property we're talking about. He might respond.
Hey Mitch, I just joined now, so I think I missed
No, you're good.
most of the part.
You've got the most insight on this, because I'm using your property as an example.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. I see. Yeah. So this one we just recently closed 250,000. So I think the appraisal came back, at least for the hard money lender, it came back at like 375,000 based on the comps that they looked at. So
Yep.
we are expecting to achieve that. And in terms of rent, when I spoke to Les, who's the property manager, what we are expecting is somewhere around like 3,800 to 3,900. So those are the numbers. So I would say that, pretty much, I think kind of like the 1% rule, is the ARV is after repair value is going to be like 375K, and then we should be able to bring in like those rents of like $3,900.
Yep.
But very different compare when we compare it to like single family homes, I would say, because when we look at the purchase versus the how much of amount that goes into the rehab. I think we estimated like 100,000 worth of rehab.
Yep.
For like 4 units.
Yeah. How did you, when I first sent you this property, how did you go about determining what you thought your ARV might be on this?
So yeah, I did look at comms, which you had helped with, and I also kind of looked at like 4-bedroom units or like 6-bedroom multifamily units within that zip code. So then I went to Zillow and then I looked at like things that were sold in the last 6 months in that zip code, anything like multifamily units, and then I saw like a bunch of them, like everything within like 350 plus, and some were like 400. Some of them had like 6 bedrooms, but when I also looked at the appraisal report that came from KRB, they also used the 6-bedroom units for comparison. So I think it kind of made sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, hard money lenders are the appraisal that he's referring to is with his hard money lender. They will do a desktop appraisal. So Tony's actually the one that videoed this property. He went in and basically FaceTimed the appraiser on this property who's sitting at their desk. They're going to look up comparable properties and everything. And based on our scope of work, that's how they're going to determine an ARV on something like here. And like you said, it came back at 275-ish or something like that. And they actually used a 6 unit, which a typical appraiser, a conventional appraiser would never do that. But hard money then be like, well, this is kind of the closest thing we have. So I guess we're going to have to use this as a comp, right? Which is a little bit unusual, but when it comes to hard money, they got a little bit of leeway when it comes to ARV and everything on here. What kind of questions do you guys have on kind of how to determine an ARV on a multifamily property? Because it is not hard. It is definitely I don't want to say it's a guessing game, but it is a lot more difficult than single family.
So are y'all saying the hard money appraisal was after Alan bought it, before?
During.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the estimate. So that's the estimate for that's their estimate of the ARV. So that's the amount that they're going to loan you on.
Exactly.
Okay.
So while you're in your loan process and everything, once you decide your lender and stuff, they're going to typically require some type of desktop appraisal. It's not full-blown. Some of them require full-blown appraisals. Most of them are just desktop appraisals because they base everything on the ARV as well, right? They need to know how much money they can lend you. They need to protect themselves as well. So they have to determine their own ARV, and that's what they do. They FaceTime us. We show them the property essentially, and then they go back, they pull comps. They give us kind of a one-pager CMA report type deal, and they say, hey, we feel the ARV is 275, and you're kind of locked into their ARV, right? So if it comes back lower than what you expected, you're going to have to bring more down payment funds. Your numbers aren't going to look quite as good. You're going to have to make some adjustments, right? So yeah, absolutely.
So we're talking about like the estimate after it's under contract by hard money.
Correct.
Okay. So we're, yeah. Okay. So you're talking about also like, the estimated ARV that you're doing before you even decide to go forward with it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You want to determine your ARV, obviously, so you can even run your numbers. But in something like this, it can be kind of hard. Typically in multifamily, for me, it's this, they were asking 250,000 for a split half ones, half twos. That's a pretty freaking good price. However, we quickly learned that the reason that they were asking that is it needs quite a bit of work into the property. So what other questions do you guys have on kind of determining ARV?
So what were the comps that were used on this? Was the 1-4 family that was under rented, and then the 6 family?
Yeah, I know they pulled 3. I don't have the comp report and everything with me, but I know that they used this one on Shady Mist because I saw that one and I was like, oh yeah, I'm the one that sold that one. And then that 6 unit, and then they had another one. I know Alan probably has the report and everything. I don't have the comps report for this one. Hang on, let me Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll also try to look on my end if I can find it now.
One of us probably has it. I don't see it. Alan, do you have it?
Yeah, I'm still looking for it.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, because I was just wondering. So, if they use the 4-family as kind of as a comp, was that more of like a sales approach method using that one, and then the 6-family was purely for like the income approach to see if something was fully rented at market rents, what kind of cap rate they're getting from that, and then like use like a mixture of them two, or them three.
Yeah,
They,
desktop appraisals for hard money are they're just kind of weird. Like they just don't follow typical like appraisal guidelines and everything. They can kind of do whatever they want to get the value and what makes sense. Here. I know I have it somewhere. Yeah, I can't find it, but they do like a mixed approach, right? So they pull the comps that they feel make sense to kind of determine a gross rent, you know, what the rental price is, what the sale price is, and they'll kind of use like a price per unit on something like that. So typically in a 4-family, they will run anywhere from about 250,000 to 350,000, depending on the area. So this one was 250,000 divided by 4. That's about $62,000, 62.5 per unit, which is pretty good. I like to typically see something less than 70,000 a unit on a 4-family. Now, if they're all 4-bedroom units, then that's obviously going to be a little bit different. But because this is a mixed 1-2, you're going to get, you know, for those 1-bedroom units, you're going to get $850 a month in gross rents on that, and you're buying 1 unit for $62,500. You just happen to have to bundle them all together in the same building, right? So if you're using the 1% rule to kind of determine what things make sense, you can definitely do it per unit basis. But that is kind of how I would determine ARV in multifamily. And whenever we're doing multifamily, it's something that we have to work on quite a bit, and we're partnered a lot with the lender. I know Alan and I, when we were going through this property, Liz, our lender and everything, she was pretty integral into helping us kind of determine some numbers, all that kind of stuff. And with multifamily, that's definitely super important to do. Let's go into, so now that we kind of have an ARV, you know, like, okay, it's going to be 375 when we're all said and done here. We're purchasing it for 250,000. Our gross rents are 3,900. The other main number that we're going to need is, what the heck is this going to cost to renovate it to get those rents up, right? And with all things multifamily, doing really, really nice finishes doesn't matter unless it raises the rent, right? Because they're more than likely, yes, they're going to pull comps, but unless it impacts your rent and your income, it does not make any sense to over renovate a multifamily property. I've never seen somebody go and flip a multifamily. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Everything has to be on a rental grade basis. If it doesn't add to rent, you shouldn't do it, right? Unless it's a capital expenditure and you just don't want to have to worry about it down the road, that's a little bit different. So with us, when we're going through properties and everything like that, we will typically go through and walk all of the units during or right before inspections. On this one, we did it actually during inspections. So this is kind of the video that I took walking through the property. It's a little grainier. This is unit 1. So just a quick overview on here. So you can obviously see here, the carpet's got to go. It's very, very pink. Everything else looks decent. Obviously there's a couch that's destroyed. The kitchen cabinets here are really not in great shape. Like 4 of the drawers are missing. This is the bedroom. So we can confirm that this does have one separate bedroom. It's not some weird pass-through studio thing or anything like that. And one thing that I really liked about this particular property is the layouts. So you walk into this bedroom, into a giant walk-in closet, and then into basically an ensuite bathroom through your closet. This is a very atypical layout for a 4-family, but I think it's pretty nice. You have an entrance to the bathroom through the closet via the bedroom. And then obviously the bathroom needs a little bit of updating. We got like a pink vanity here and a shower insert that's very yellow. Getting those nice and clean, and a separate entrance off the main for that actual thing. So this is one of the 1-bedroom units. You can see in the cabinets and everything here. It's just, if you opened them up, they're just falling apart. But I really like this one because it had a great layout. And then going into here, I think this is this is a 2-bedroom. So you can see this one it just got a lot of stuff in it. But the cabinets are in fairly decent shape. Appliances are fairly decent. Countertops, things like that. It still has a ton of carpet. We don't do carpet in rentals, period, because every single time you change tenants, you're going to change the carpet more than likely. It's just, you can do it. It's cheaper. Coming into this bathroom is really not that bad. Just needs some quick little updating, some paint, stuff like that. Tenants like to keep things very dark, but again, carpet in here, paint up the doors and stuff, get rid of all the natural wood colored trim and everything. And then same thing in this room. Again, they have like no lights in here. There's no ceiling fans. There's nothing, but this is the 2-bedroom, both pretty big 2s in here on there. So that just gives you a feel for kind of how each of these look. There is, I think it's this unit right here that's actually a little bit more finished. He started renovating this himself. So we've got some new cabinets and stuff in here. We've got tools literally everywhere. He did put carpet, like brand new carpet, in this entire unit. So this is all new. And again, it's going to be up to Alan with if he wants to keep this carpet. He didn't pay for it, and just replace it and do floors when the tenant moves out. Keep it in there, obviously totally optional. So again, just nice clean carpet, kept kind of the natural wood trim and everything, which I'm not a huge fan of. Broken piece of glass there, same layout. He's still working on the bathroom. Everything in here was like half finished, and these 2 units are half done. So cosmetically, this property is really doesn't need a ton. It just, because it's a 4-family, you have 4 kitchens and 4 bathrooms and you have much, much, much more of the things that are expensive to replace, right? So like Alan said earlier, our rehab budget on this is $100,000 to renovate this property. Looking at those videos and everything, I don't think you would have guessed that this needs $100,000 worth of work, right? It's the things that we didn't see that came out of inspections that are costing us a little less than half of that renovation budget. And it's the HVAC. So this property has 2 HVAC units that are original to the building from 1976. It has one from 1997, the year I was born, and one from 2008 is the newest one. And it has heaters that are up in the ceiling up above the drop ceilings, which I had never seen before this property. You see those in like commercial properties and everything, but you don't see those in residential. Also original 1976 to the building. He claimed that they work, but he had all the ceiling tiles moved out of the way already, and those ceiling tiles were very, very yellow.
It was
So
the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
yeah, yeah. Even Tony was like, "This doesn't make any sense at all."
I mean, it looked like there was like an electric stove in the ceiling.
Yeah.
With a blower on it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's ductwork that comes out over the kitchen cabinets and into the bedroom and everything. So what we're going to have to do on this property to replace one of those in ceiling unit things, talking to my HVAC guy, he's like, dude, you can't get like, they're like $4,000 a piece, and it's going to be like 10 weeks before we can even get one, if we can even get one. Right. And he's just like, it's just not going to make sense. So what we decided to do is do heat pump systems and do all new heat pumps, all new air handlers and everything. And there's a closet that's right next to where this heat unit is that we're going to put the kind of just run additional ductwork into this closet, put the air handler in there, run new units and everything outside. And voila, we spend $40,000 in about $40,000 in HVAC units. So that's about 10 grand per unit. And the way that I will determine rehab costs and everything, this goes for single family or multifamily. Multifamily, I like to do it on a per unit basis. So how much cosmetically do we feel like we're going to spend per unit? So on something like this, there's one unit that's pretty much almost done. So I think I estimate on this one cosmetically that we would probably spend somewhere around 10 to 15,000 per unit. Yeah, about $15,000 per unit in cosmetic updates. So that's flooring, kitchen cabinets, appliances, painting, you know, kind of redoing the bathrooms and everything on there. So that's $60,000 in cosmetic stuff there, and then another $40,000 in HVAC. That's kind of how we got to our renovation budget for this particular property. If you are doing it.
Sorry to interrupt, Mitch. Did y'all look at, like, y'all looked at all that before? What was your timeline for figuring out the repair costs? Was it before you put it under contract, or?
It was during our inspection period. Yep. So we got this under contract at 250. We said, hey, we want to, I think it was a 7-day inspection period. We got our inspector in there, as well as myself, and walked through the property and everything. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we had no idea, right? Our numbers just went all over the place when we figured out, you know, we didn't really know that HVAC was necessarily going to need to all be replaced and things like that. But the units were in a little bit better condition, I think, than we had originally anticipated on there. If you're doing a hard money loan, my lender, at least, her name is Liz. That's who I'm going to recommend anybody go to. She's a broker, so she can help us with a lot of different things. She's going to make us fill out this scope of work document, which kind of budgets out a little bit more succinct instead of just one big number. Now, these numbers are extremely rough, and by no means is this an itemized quote. We will only do itemized quotes after you buy the property, and that's what Brandy does. That's her job. She'll get in there with our subs and get us an itemized quote. So through that stuff, we had $1,500 in permits, demolition about $45 to get all those old cabinets and carpet and all that kind of stuff out of there. The roofs and the gutters needed a little bit of repair, soft repair, stuff like that. Windows had a couple broken panes that need to be fixed. The driveway had a pothole that needs to be fixed. Finished carpentry is just new hardware, doorknobs, things like that. Interior paint, so kind of painting the entire interior of basically the entire building. We've got that in there. Flooring for 3 of the units is what I budgeted for. So kind of deciding to keep the carpet in one of those units because we didn't pay for it. It's already brand new. We don't need to necessarily do that right now. I wouldn't recommend paying to put carpet in there, but if it comes free, you might as well just keep it. 3 new kitchens, and then painting the cabinets and everything. So 3 new kitchens in 3 of the units, and then painting the cabinets that in the unit that he redid, where he put the carpet in and everything. Refinishing the bathroom, so just replacing the shower surrounds and the tubs and the toilets and the vanities kind of as needed. Some of them are better than others, but when it comes to multifamily, we kind of just do an average. Any miscellaneous plumbing work and stuff like that. As you can see, we have like $36,000 something in HVAC work. That was the biggest stuff on there. Budgeting for new appliances, and came out to exactly $100,000. This was Alan's choice. We could have either asked for $110,000, $120,000 from the hard money lender, so that if this did go over, he wouldn't have to come out of pocket. He chose to say, hey, I want to pay less interest. I want to pay less fees and stuff like that. Let's go $100,000. If there is anything that happens, I'll pay for it out of pocket myself. So you have a couple different options that you can choose from as far as paying for rehab, right? It just comes down to, do you have the money in your bank account as a contingency, or do you want to build in that contingency into the hard money loan and use somebody else's money for that to save as much as your own as possible? So just a couple different things there. But this document's super helpful going through the process once you get it under contract. And when it comes to multifamily as well, you get it under contract running your numbers, right? So you figure out your gross rents, you figure out kind of what your ARV is, you kind of try to figure out what the renovation budget is going to be. And then you offer on it, right? You say, well, these numbers don't look too good, but let's offer on it, right? Let's get this locked up under contract, and then let's do our due diligence, right? So coming in here, getting our inspection reports and everything, and then talking those people, talking the sellers down and being like, hey, look, we didn't know that, we needed $40,000 in HVAC, or we didn't know that the roof was absolutely shot, right? And take some money off there. So even on a single family house, save the client. Even in this market, he had a purchase price of $140,000 on this property. We just talked the seller down to $105,000. And it's like, that's a lot. I mean, $35,000 off on an inspection. Everyone's always scared. Well, if I'm locked up in contract, how do I back out? Even if he were to back out, there's no harm. We had the sellers wrapped around our fingers on that one. They had to sell that thing. They did not want to put that thing back on the market. That's how we got $35,000 off. Right now, on something like this, the wholesalers were like, no, we had other interested parties. We had backup offers. You either take it at $250 or we're just going to go sell it to somebody else. Right. So we didn't really negotiate when it came to purchase price and stuff like that. The numbers still made sense to us, and this should be a great cash flowing property. About $25,000 in equity, just like that, right off the bat. Yes, he's going to leave a bit of money in the deal, but because it's cash flowing, he's going to get a good cash on cash return on his on the cash that he is leaving into the deal and everything on there. Okay. So now we've got purchase price, ARV, rehab estimate, and gross rents. Those are the four numbers that you're going to need to know in order to analyze a multifamily property. Those are the four on there. How many of you guys use the Bigger Pockets calculators and everything to analyze properties? Yeah, I know, Lisa, you do.
I just got mine, so I'm going to start using it.
Okay. You're going to start using the Bigger Pockets one?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. I like that one because it will generate you like a nice report and everything that you can, if you have partners or whatever, you can look at that. Brett, what do you use to analyze properties?
Oh, you already know.
Brett is a spreadsheet wizard, and he has the most intense spreadsheets you'll ever see. He just chooses to use his own in order to, in order for him to get a better idea of how to actually analyze properties and everything. That's just what he chooses to do. So this is my spreadsheet analysis and everything that I'll do. So I've got single family, multifamily, and everything in here. So immediately I've got hard money offer if you're going hard money, or private money if you were to raise funds and everything like that. So on this property, I would put in the purchase price at $250,000, rehab costs at $100,000, $375, and then I have this calculated to, I want it to look like it's going to be a perfect burr on here. So I messed that up. So I have my loan to value ratio set quite a bit different than what you guys might be looking at. Just because if I'm looking at stuff, I want to see how close I am to a perfect burr, right? I don't need to know exactly how much money I'm going to leave into the property. That's kind of the next tab. This is kind of my deal. If I wanted an absolutely perfect burr, I would have to offer $162,000 on this property. That's not going to happen, right? It's just not realistic. This is better for flips and single families and things like that. With multifamily, you have to take into account the cash flow analysis, cash flow aspect of it. And I'm running this at 70 and 65% loan to value on here. So this is the spreadsheet that I guess me and Brett kind of came up with together on how we analyze properties. So in here, we have actually a 5-unit commercial property in here. I fill in all the blanks and stuff. And basically what we just determined was everything that you need right here. So we've got our asking price, so we can go ahead and just analyze this. So we've got $250,000. We said we were going to do $100,000 in rehab. $375,000 ARV estimate. We said our gross rents were going to be $3,900. And especially in multifamily, I'm leaving this time to refinance as 12. Because typical timelines, from the time you close, you're going to have, with a $100,000 budget, first of all, you have to keep in mind that there's tenants in here, right? So we kind of ran into that issue. We have 2 units that we can start on immediately, but we have 2 units that are at least 30 days out. We had 1 unit who was elderly. He asked if he could be out. I think it was July 1st or something like that. So like 60, 90 days, however far that is on there. So we'll get those 2 units renovated, then come back and do the other 2 units. So we have at least 6 months probably in renovation time on this one. And then that eats up half your time right there. To rent out this entire property, maybe we have, you're going to have at least minimum probably 2 months to get this property fully occupied, right? To have good tenants, it's going to take 30 days of marketing and everything. And then you have to keep in mind that if they're a good tenant, they're probably going to have to give their landlord a 30 days notice to vacate their current property, assuming they're month to month. And then they're going to move into your property, first month's rent, deposit, all of that kind of stuff. If you have somebody who comes and wants to rent your property and they're like, yeah, I can move in tomorrow, that's a massive red flag. It's like, well, where are you living right now? Oh, I live in such and such or whatever, right? You never know. So at least 2 months on something like this, probably closer to 3 months. So that's 9 months right there. And then time for appraisals and refinance, and changing lenders if you have to, right? And just having that buffer zone in there. Could you do it in 9 months? You probably could. I'm always going to run it more conservatively and put 12 months in there for how long it's going to take. And typically a hard money loan expires in 12 months anyways. You can always
So Mitch, when you're looking at that time period, are you looking at that from like a holding costs
Yes.
question? Like, okay. And so that's how that's figured in the spreadsheet is to.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So for me, these numbers right here are being used throughout different equations over here, right? So current annual property taxes. I don't know what let's see if I can find it real quick. Might not tell me on here. Tax unavailable. Okay. If you're not familiar with the Hamilton County Auditor site, you should get real familiar with it. Hamilton County is all of Cincinnati proper. You can click on property search. to the address in here, pops it up right there. Total tax is right here. There we go. And this number will go up after you purchase it and everything. Everyone, they have a tax estimator. I think it's under tax distribution. So you can enter, let's say the after value is $375,000. Based on that, it says your gross real estate tax is now $14,000 a year. That went up $10,000. That is not actually going to happen. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Cincinnati is on a 3-year cycle. So every 3 years, they reassess properties that have sold and everything. I have never seen something go up that high. I don't even know why they have that in here. But if you're poking around on the auditor site and you see that and you're like, Mitch, my taxes are going to go up $10,000 next time they reassess it because the value is now $375,000. That's not what's going to happen. I always run my numbers at current tax rates because it just doesn't go up that much. I've never seen it jump nearly that much. Maybe it goes up a little bit. That's why we run our numbers a little bit more conservatively. But there's a ton of great information on the auditor's site. I'm happy to send you the link if you guys are having troubles finding it. All right, so we got our tax in here. So yearly insurance on here, we're about $145 a month. I'm cool with that. Water, trash, and sewer. So utilities on a multifamily, owner pays water, trash, and sewer always on a multifamily property. Single family property, the tenant should be paying for all the utilities, except for Lisa's property where they're not paying water apparently, which is not great, but regardless. Water, trash, and sewer will always be accounted into there. For something like this, I generally will have that probably at around, I want to get this to like $250 a month. I don't want to do math. There we go. $3,000 a year. Depending on the property, the owner may also have to pay gas. So if your property has a boiler system, that means there's a boiler in the basement that runs on gas and it steams hot water. And that's how all the units in the common areas are heated. There's one temperature you set it to, you pay the heat all the time. This particular property, you don't have to do that because we're going to put in all new heat pump systems and everything, and they're all electric, and everything is all the electric meters are all separate per unit. So on this one, he's going to have to pay common area electric, which honestly might maybe be, I don't know, I'm going to put like $50 a month. Probably going to be like 10 because all he's running is coin washer and dryer in here, which I'm not even taking into account, and like the lights in the hallway. CapEx, maintenance, vacancy. I'm cool with all this stuff. We're doing like a full rehab on this property, so CapEx stuff I'm not that worried about. Maintenance stuff totally fine. We're going to know what's wrong and we can always adjust this. So that's going to give us our monthly expense number of $1414.09. Okay. So coming over to here, I have this set up so you kind of read it left to right. This is a hard money purchase. This is a private money purchase. We're going to assume that we're buying this in hard money, right? That's what 99% of people are going to do. So your monthly interest payment on here. So your total loan amount is going to be your rehab cost plus your purchase price minus your down payment is how all this stuff works. So you can see the equation here. So your down payment. So I have the loan to value at, you're going to put 25% down, which on a multifamily, that's extremely typical. That's what's going to happen. Maybe you get a 20% down loan, something like that, but your interest rate is going to go up. So on this one, we're going to assume that we are a first-time investor. We have no experience. Your interest rate is going to be like 12%, unless your credit score is like 890 or something crazy. Then maybe they give you a break on it. Lender estimated ARV at 375. Perfect. rehab holdback, we've got $100,000 in there. So this monthly interest payment, what I will typically do is just literally just to Google interest only payment calculator. And you can see that I've used this a lot. So your principal amount is you're going to take this loan amount, enter that into here at a 12% interest rate. And this will be your monthly interest payment. So every single month that we hold this property, we're making an interest payment of $2,625. Alan, what was your actual number that you're paying per month on this one? 'Cause I feel like that's really high.
I think my monthly payment is around 1,400, I guess, because
I was like, that seems too high.
yeah, and then the interest rate, I guess, is like 10.75.
Oh, you got a better deal, probably because you've done deals and stuff before. So we're running at your numbers and everything here. So these numbers, like your monthly interest payment, your interest rate, LTV, all that kind of stuff, that's why we work with the lenders, and she can give you a quote either before or while you're in contract. Typically, we don't have enough time to do it before you're in contract. So we want to get our offer in, but while you're in contract, she can give you these exact numbers on to fill in all of this hard money purchase stuff here. So we've got our down payment here, origination fees, service fees, prorated interest. This is your first months that they will collect at closing. Draw fees. So I think I have this calculated to $500 every single draw for 12 months. That's probably really, really high. You're not going to do 12 draws on here, but for my numbers, I'm always going to go a lot more conservative because you just don't know. And $500 would be the most expensive and the most times you could take a draw. So that kind of calculates your holding costs and everything of holding this property for the 12 months of like $16,800. This is the cost of doing a hard money loan. A lot to use other people's money. So in this instance, according to our numbers here, you need about $118,000 to close it with these exact numbers here. Again, I know that Alan did not put that much money down on doing this stuff. That's why we get quotes from the actual lender and everything. This is how I'm running my numbers, assuming that we don't see any of that stuff. Okay. And then what I will do coming into here is that's your initial purchase numbers. You have to figure out your end game as well, right? What is it going to look like when you go and hold the property at the end of the 12 months, right? You got to be able to refinance into something. So we're doing a 70% LTV on here, which means we're going to leave 30% equity into the deal, which with a multifamily property is extremely normal. Sometimes you can get 75%. Again, I'm always going to run it way more conservative and run it at a 70% loan to value. Interest rate on this is a DSCR long-term refi, so it uses none of your personal income or anything like that. It is only going to use the income generated of the property, the debt service coverage ratio, which I think I have over here somewhere, for 30 years. Oh, debt service coverage ratio right here, which that's a really good number. You want to see debt service about above 1.25 is kind of the minimum to get financing and stuff on here. So this is a 1.5, which means, yes, we're going to leave money into the deal, but this is going to pay for our payment basically 1.5 times. Again, origination fees, these loans are expensive. Again, origination fees, taxes and insurance for 12 months that they're going to collect, closing fee, underwriting fee. Those are just kind of generic numbers and stuff that I have in there. So your total closing cost on something like this is going to be like 13 grand to refinance into a long-term product at an 8.5% interest rate. Woohoo! Thank God for interest rates. Okay, so your principal and interest payment is going to make that about, to hold this property is going to be about $2,000 a month. Your escrow payment's going to be about $529. So that's your taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff. So every single month, $2,500 is going to be leaving your bank account, right? So we got to make sure that we're going to have some type of income and everything on there. So your gross income, it's not right. No way that's right. $3,900. Oh, yeah, duh. Okay. So the income and stuff here is your gross income minus your total monthly expenses is 13. And then your net income is that gross income number subtracted all of your monthly expenses. So all of your percentages and everything like that in here. So all of your 5% CapEx saving, your maintenance, your vacancy, everything that you've accounted for, all of your expenses and everything is going to be taken out of there. And according to this, you're going to cash flow negative $61 a month. And that's, again, we're running through these numbers. And the way that I would normally do this is run through the numbers and then kind of tweak things as I figure out different scenarios and things like that. Loan payoff, break-even equity needed. That's just what I call it. So essentially, you're going to leave at least $13,000 into this property. We don't need to worry about that stuff over there. So based on these very, very, very initial numbers, this is not the greatest deal in the world, right? Like I said, Alan's numbers are a little bit different on this property. We went over them and stuff, but in the sake of time, this is typically how I'm going to generally run my numbers and then go back and double check everything like 4 times. I know Brett does the same thing, but he does it like 97 times when he goes back and runs his numbers and stuff. And just kind of tighten it up. What'd you say?
98.
98 times. Yeah, I know. He doesn't sleep. He just analyzes properties all day. So, and this is a work in progress spreadsheet for us as well. What questions do you guys have on this stuff? None. It totally makes sense.
I have lots of questions. I think I just need to see this repeated like 5 more times.
That's
get
that's exactly what it takes. Like multifamily is confusing. Like just wait until you get into like commercial stuff, right? Like I don't even know if we have a commercial tab. Oh yeah, this is the commercial tab that we have. So this is one of Brett's spreadsheets and everything. And this just gets like ridiculously involved with expense ratios and all of that kind of stuff. That is for another meetup that's 4 hours long. No,
I don't know if I'm even going to get into commercial, so I'm kind of happy about that. So
yeah, you get there eventually. You never know, but that's a numbers game for sure. So no questions on this. Just need it repeated like 97 times.
What did you guys
exactly
coming up for cash flow?
What's that?
What did you guys end up estimating for cash flow? Like on what's his name? Alan's actual spreadsheet.
Yeah, Alan, do you remember what your number said for actual cash flow on this one?
I guess around 500 is what I think I calculated, but I'm leaving some money in it. So like, I think I was leaving in around like 20,000 per unit. So maybe like 80,000 left into the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Around 500, somewhere around 500 to 600 cash flow per month.
Okay. Yeah. So he's choosing to leave more money into the deal than obviously this spreadsheet shows. And again, it's just all about how you run your numbers. So he basically for that, we would just change our LTV on the refinance more than likely to just say, hey, we're going to leave more money into this property, which is obviously going to increase your cash flow because it reduces the amount of your actual loan amount and stuff like that on there. So he said, I said $500 to $600 a month, which is a little bit over $100 a unit, which in my mind in year one, $100 a unit is on a multifamily should be your minimum. What other questions you got?
was that in the last column there? Was that the cash on cash return? Was that one of the figures?
Yeah.
Okay. The worst case was higher. I'm confused by that.
I don't know. This is spreadsheets a work in progress. So don't.
Okay, got it.
I guess these are just like different numbers and stuff. Me and Brett have been working on trying to figure out this spreadsheet and everything and make something that makes sense that we can send to you guys and say, hey, look, this is the spreadsheet that we use. So you can choose to use this, the bigger pockets calculator, whatever it is on here. So we're trying to figure out all this kind of stuff in here, but it's kind of it's a work in progress, but it shows you kind of what numbers you guys need to be thinking of on. These are the numbers I need to know. These are the questions I need to ask.
So you were saying the main four numbers are the asking price, the rehab estimate, the ARV, and the rent estimate.
Yep.
Okay.
If you can get these numbers, figure everything else out. So, and that's what I consider my job, is to get you these numbers, right? And to get them as accurate as possible, right? Running everything else, this is your lender's job, right? And then on the back end, this is your refi lender's job. Monthly expenses and stuff, I'll obviously get you those. This is your job as far as CapEx, maintenance, how much you want to save for all that kind of stuff. Now I can help you with that, absolutely, but it's totally personal preference on how much you want to save and how much you want to hold back, and what do you want your cash on cash return to be, and what are you okay with, right? Are you okay with a property that's negative $50 a month, right? Or do you have to have a property that cash flows, $600 a month, right? Determining those criteria, that's totally up to you, right? If you're in a stellar area, maybe you take a loss every month, right? If you're in that position, you don't need the cash flow, you just want to buy decent properties, cool, right? Or if you're in a position where you're like, no, I'd rather have a worse area, but I want to cash flow a lot more, right? Then that's totally up to you. And we work with you to kind of determine all that stuff. Okay, cool. Any questions on this spreadsheet or anything like that?
So I guess for me, I'm somewhat new as far as the hard money side. I know in general what it is, but so during those 12 months, let's say it was 12 months, right? Did Alan have to pay those $1,400 out of pocket, or how does that work out?
Yeah, so he would have to pay that out of pocket. Go back to normal mode here. But yeah, so the monthly interest payments are essentially, it's your mortgage payment for that length of time. So you would typically pay those out of pocket. Just it would come out of your bank account. You're paying only interest on that property just to hold that money, essentially.
Got it.
Mitch, you said you're using someone named Liz for hard money loans now?
Yeah, I know you went through Backflip. So Joe at Backflip actually referred me to Liz, and because he is one of her lenders. So she's a mortgage broker. And because of the clients that we do, most of our clients own 0 to 2 properties, honestly. And so the educational aspect of it was huge for us. So connecting with Liz, now we have 2 Liz's, property manager Liz and lender Liz. And so she's a broker. She's got like 40 plus hard money lenders to choose from. So she basically gathers all the information and shops your deal out to get you the best offer, right? Like, yes, there is fees and stuff involved with her, but she's extremely good on the educational aspects of things as well. And for our clients, that makes a huge difference, right? If you were going to ask me about points and lending and all this kind of stuff, I can't answer that question, right? Ask me about the properties and things like that. Don't ask me about the lending. I pass everything off to her now for the most part.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like then there would be the option for funding all the rehab on the front end rather than having to do like proof of work to get the money to pay you all back for the rehab.
No, you still have to do that,
You
unfortunately.
have to do that. Okay.
Yeah, because she goes to Kiavi and Backflip and Wildcat and a lot of lenders that people may have already heard of. Now, she's got a bunch of different weird ones. She does commercial stuff. She does DSCR refinancing, but she's kind of there just to hold your hand. And as a new investor, it is well worth her fees for her to be there and hold your hand 100%. But you do still have to, do the whole picture thing or, walkthroughs and proof of work being done and all that kind of stuff that I know we dealt with on your property, and we do on everybody's property for the most part. So we just get used to kind of doing it and dealing with it now.
You're getting used to dealing with it. It's that's, if it's becoming the norm, or it is the norm, then that's, at least it's becoming routine.
Yep, it's kind of just becoming the norm. And, we do have clients who will just pay themselves back with those draws. And they'll just front the money to us so we can keep going, pay themselves back with those draws and everything. Or we'll request some type of funds up front from the lender, make sure that we can do that like we did on your property. Or they'll just say, hey, I kept reserves of, 10 grand in my account. Let me just give you this first. That way we can show that work has been done and everything, and then go through and as work is completed, sort of float that 10 grand. You pay yourself back for that as work is getting completed or at the end of the project or something like that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. What other questions do we got? I'm just going to open this up and just be general real estate question. Ask me whatever you want. I know we kind of went over time, but if anybody's got any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Are you guys still using the same rehab model with having a project manager through your company and they're overseeing the work?
Yep. So Brandy's still pretty much doing everything. Yeah, I'm still doing all the real estate stuff. She's doing all the construction stuff and everything. We have Tony now, who's also an agent on our team, so he's helping me out on the real estate side of things, doing showings and walkthroughs and appraisal FaceTimes and any and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Gary, ceiling, HVAC unit, trauma.
Yes. Yes, exactly. What other questions you guys got? I'm open to it. Doesn't even have to be multifamily anymore. Israel, I know you guys are kind of new, reached out recently via Bigger Pockets and everything.
Yeah, we did. So actually, we're in between getting some multifamilies. Well, you were recommending the BRRRR strategy, and you were telling me to start with the single family residence. And I guess I'm a little surprised with the numbers. So it kind of makes sense why you're recommending to start with the single family residence first, or maybe a duplex. But it makes total sense. You're multiplying, 4 kitchens, 4 vanities.
Yep.
Especially that HVAC system that you guys had to replace is kind of crazy, $40,000. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I know you watched the video on the single family stuff, and I always recommend people start in single family, right? Unless you have a ton of money backing you or something like that, and you're like, cool, I'm just going to go for it, right? Okay, go for it, right? You'll win over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? But when you start with a reasonable amount of money, right? 20, 30, 40, 60, $80,000, whatever, right? You're like, I have to make this go as far as possible, right? I can't screw this up. Let's start in single family, because you saw, we spent more than half of this meeting trying to determine what the freaking ARV is going to be on this multifamily property. It's so much more difficult to try to determine that, where on our single family meeting, we pretty much did that in 5 minutes because we're pulling comps, right? It's like there are similar single family houses that are fixed up. Okay, well, our house is basically exactly like this. This is probably what our ARV is. Where multifamily, there's just more risk involved in multifamily, in my idea, right? There's potentially more upside, but you need to get your feet wet in starting with, single family, maybe a duplex. Start small, right? Start conservative, invest within your means.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes total sense. So yeah, we'll probably start with either a single family residence, if not, maybe like you said, a duplex.
Yeah. Maybe a small duplex, something like that. If the price makes sense and everything, you don't want to go jumping into a massive, 10 unit building. I have clients who are like, I'm new at this, I want a 10 unit. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? Like, yeah, let me just spend $1.5 million on this 10 unit or something like that. Right. And I'm just like, I don't really know what it's going to be worth. They don't know how to run their numbers yet. They don't know how to do any of that stuff. Right. It just does not make a whole lot of sense. So yeah, definitely recommend starting small. So yeah, like Lisa's done her first property. So she's got a property over on the west side, over on the river, just a cute little single family property. We got her off market. I don't remember even what the exact numbers and stuff were on it. Right. But I mean, she would probably tell you it's like, yeah, it wasn't amazing, but it was all right. And that's pretty much how your first deal goes. Actually, your first 3.
Right. Like you were saying, the first 3 are the most stressful, right? Oh, sorry, Lisa.
Oh, no problem. I wanted to check in about you on the first page of the spreadsheet, you were doing the perfect BRRRR scenario.
Yeah.
Are you saying that multifamilies, you don't think they're actually going to burr successfully?
Unless, so I don't think that for any of our clients, unless you're sourcing your own deals, so you are the wholesaler, right? It is going to be extremely hard, especially in multifamily, for you to find something that's going to be the perfect burr, right? Because with multifamily, you're leaving more money in the deal. The LTV isn't as good. Who knows what the ARV is going to be? It's kind of a guesstimate on there. Single family, you can get more reasonably close, but especially with our out-of-state investors, you know, you don't own the construction company. You don't know the areas. You're not doing the wholesaling yourself, right? So you're having to pay somebody to do all of those things, right? Typically you're not paying in cash, so you're paying hard money. You're paying fees for all of those things, right? So that you can actually have the ability to invest, right? It's either don't invest or have a couple of base hits, right? Over the next 30 years. Which one are you going to choose? I'm going to choose, let's get some reasonable deals consistently, where a lot of people are looking for those home runs, right? I get clients all the time who are like, well, I'm looking for something that's single family, 70% LTV minus rehab, right? I'm like, are you coming here to do the work yourself? Like, and the rehab is going to be zero? Like, it's not going to happen. The wholesalers make money, the lenders make money, the sellers have to make money, the, you know, contractors have to make money, the real estate agents have to make money. So yeah, it's, you know, don't invest or invest consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you were saying that instead look at the cash flow.
Yeah, for multifamily properties, and I said this last week as well, and there's two different types of burrs to me, right? There's an equity burr and a cash flow burr. Equity burr means that you're going to, it could almost be a flip, right? Where you're going to basically all the money that you put into that deal, you're going to be able to pull right out, but you're not going to cash flow very well, right? Because you increased that value so much, you probably should have just flipped it. You're probably going to be negative on the cash flow, right? Or you're going to have a cash flow burr, which are like on Alan's property, you're going to leave some money in the deal, right? But you're going to make in year one, you're going to make $500, $600, $700 a month, or maybe even just, you know, $200 a month in a decent area on a single family property, right? You're actually going to have real positive cash flow on a cash flow burr, but you're going to have to leave some money in the deal, right? With my out-of-state investors, choose one. Right? Very, 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 very rarely are you going to find both, where you perfect burr out of it and you cash flow right from the beginning, right? There is kind of a sweet spot in purchase price and everything under $200,000 single family houses where you might be able to kind of do that. You know, you kind of going to have to be on the west side. You might, you know, be in a C-ish area, something like that. But then your values aren't quite as high. So there's some playing with that you have to do. But in my mind, you kind of got to choose one. Do you want to get all your money back out or do you want to cash flow?
That's good to think about. And when you said money left in the deal, are you talking about the down payment plus some? Or is the down payment factored into that? Or is that totally separate from the down payment?
You should be able to get some money back, right? So let's say you put $100,000 down on the property, and you're able, in your cash out refi, they give you the purchase price plus $50,000, right? You're going to leave $50,000 of that down payment, right, into that property. Now we hope that you increase the equity more than what your down payment was, right? More than what you have in the actual deal, so that you get out, you know, oh, I put $100,000 down and they just gave me back and I made $120,000, right? That would be plus $20,000 in equity cash to your pocket to go invest someplace else, right? That's not going to happen. It's the other way around, where I put $100,000 down on this property and everything. They gave me $80,000 back in cash. So I'm negative $20,000 in this deal, but hey, I cash flow $200 a month and $200 a month. You know, cash on cash return for $20,000. It's not that bad.
So you're looking at actually, in theory, there are scenarios where you could get part of your down payment back. So the money you left in is actually not down payment plus whatever else. It's like, oh no, you actually can get some of that.
It's the down payment. It's your it's a culmination of all the fees and stuff like you have to take in there as well, right? So it's not just your down payment. It's your total cash to close, right? It's that black number at the bottom of that spreadsheet, right? So
That's right.
Put $118,000 into it. Well, shoot, I better get more than $118,000 out of it, right? Or I better be cash flowing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Gotcha. Okay.
think about it. Yep. So what other questions you guys got? That sounds like it. And it's a lot easier when we actually have a specific property that we're analyzing for you guys, and you can get really deep and specific on one property that you're looking at, right? Doing an example and stuff like this is a good overview on what you should kind of keep in mind. But when go out there and find a property, right? Send it to me, email it to me. Let's start analyzing things. Let's start looking at it, right? This is more know the questions to ask, right? Mitch, can you help me with comps, right? What are the expenses on here? Can you get me the rent roll? What's the current rents on this property, right? What are the utility splits? Am I paying for heat on this one? Are the tenants all paying for heat? All that kind of stuff. And that's the most important part. We are here to help you through this entire process. We're not here to send you off and do it by yourself, right? That would be a disaster.
Definitely.
He's like, nah, dude, I don't want to do that. Yeah, definitely not. So between me and Tony and Brandy and everybody else we work with, that's our goal. We have the same thing is help new investors get into a property because nobody wants to buy in California. That's like our entire thing, you know. Shoot, you can't even buy a property in California for $250,000. You can buy 4 units here. It's crazy. Leases in Arizona, like it's the same thing, you know. It's a little better than California, but it's ridiculous. So that's our philosophy here for sure. So any final questions or anything like that? And I'll let you guys get off of here. We went a little over, but multifamily's complicated. So
Is everyone else here? Are you all in California?
Yeah, I'm in Well, me and Melissa were in California by Los Angeles, and we were actually trying to house hack, but like a quadruplex here, starting at 600,000, maybe 800,000, and you're getting something decent. Honestly, like this property that we were being shown, if it were to be here in Los Angeles, it would probably be like $1 million quadruplex.
in its current condition.
In its current condition, yes.
Yeah.
It might be 1.5 after ARV.
Yeah. Which it's just ridiculous.
My parents sold their 3-bedroom. I'm calling it 3-bedroom because one of the bedrooms is maybe not a bedroom. Bungalow in Anaheim for over $1 million 2 years ago. And they were worried. We moved them back to Ohio, and they were worried about like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna find a house? I'm like, you can just buy the block.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were very worried about it. But I mean, literally super modest. They sold our family home when we all grew up and bought just a little house in Anaheim, not far from Disneyland, and $1 million.
That's
That
crazy.
might be why it was so much, because it was pretty close to Disneyland. You can Airbnb that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's behind the Crystal Cathedral. So if you know that area very well, it's like Disneyland's over here, the Crystal Cathedral's here, and then their house is right back there. But either way, $1 million.
Yeah, that's like $100,000 house here.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple Spanish, like stuccoed, standard California 2, maybe 3-bedroom house.
Crazy. That's why 80% plus of our clients are in the expense, you know, California, New York, Florida, Arizona, Montana, you know, all those things. It's like, no, it's like, let's keep doing this. So we're expanding to Indianapolis, Northern Kentucky, Columbus, Dayton, more agents in Cincinnati as well. So that way you guys have more properties to choose from, but the same team and process and everything that you guys are used to. So
Yeah.
that's our goal for this year. So we got Tony here in Cincinnati. We've got this month we should have Indianapolis, an agent Indy up and running and everything there as well to send deals out. So yeah, that's the goal. So sweet. Well, thanks for joining everybody. If you do think of any questions, feel free to call me, text me, email me. I think you all have my contact info. So all good, but I appreciate you joining us. I hope this was reasonably helpful, and let's go find a property and do your own analysis.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
This is really helpful.
No worries. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.